what's up, Super Heru Radio family? I'm your host, Aseer Duke. You're now tuned in live with Super Heru Radio, along with my co-host, Radio-Aseer, the leader of the Empress of 10,000 years, and more. He's about to go take a bath. Thank you guys for coming through once again. As always, a lot of stuff going down. First, before, again, let me start off by saying happy birthday and happy return day to my spiritual teacher, one of my great spiritual teachers, one who consecrated me as a Duke, the Empress Nkweke. You've heard us mention her name before. But her birthday was on the 28th. The ill shit is that her birthday was on the 28th in 1944, and she died on November 29th. You know what I mean? I believe it was 2009. So it was very interesting. She was born and then went out the day after she was born, technically. But what's also interesting, though, is that the other ancestor who just returned, Myra Snyder Scott L., Myra Shearer Snyder Scott L., is being buried tomorrow on, again, the day that the Empress was born. So I'm also seeing the cyclical cycles and how our ancestors return again, and how we, as the torchbearers for them here in this reality, are here to do exactly that. So I definitely want to give thanks and praise to all of you who have been holding us down and working with us and taking time and cognizant knowledge into your own ascension, however that may be or however that's turning out for you. The fact that you are even taking time to take it seriously says a lot about yourself as an individual, as well as someone who not only cares about themselves but the outcome of our people. Yet we still have to be very discerning with that word, because we don't want to necessarily lump the wrong people into that, because that's how we get jammed up, you know what I mean? So we just definitely want to always put that out there and just be real with the intent and how we put it out. So as we're now officially in Sagittarius, you know, there's a lot of good, positive things that's coming down the pike for us, astrologically, as well as symbolically, as well as the physical work and attributes of things that we put work into. Also, want to give a shout-out to the Brother Imani, who hit us up about the brother who was attacked by the police 2 weeks ago. He's about to go and do a major power move against the beast. So we want to definitely give him respect and shout and thank him for that, for doing his thing and not backing down on these devils when it comes to exacting a certain return based on what it is they have tried to usurp from us for all of these years. So definitely respecting him and any other original man or woman that's actually standing up for their rights and is not just being a docile, complacent, not standing for nothing, you know, as Elijah Muhammad used to refer to them as a poison animal eater. You know what I'm saying? Or worse, somebody who don't eat animals, but they do the opposite. They are voracious and prey upon people. You know, those are the worst. So you have to always keep a sharp sword and a clear mind when we are walking through this wilderness that we refer to as this place. You know what I mean? So as we always do, to get into a little current events real quick, one of the biggest current events is the fact that they are so consistent with their little rituals that they're almost becoming so transparent that it looks like people participating in them don't even want to carry them out no more. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of the stuff is so passé now that is going on that it don't even really work. It's not even worth mentioning. You know what I mean? Keep it real. But some of the things that are there is a new so-called strain of the HPV, the hemopaloma virus, that allegedly is causing the skin of the genitalia to be eaten away. So it's almost some sort of flesh-eating strain now, some sort of flesh-eating strain that they're trying to basically say is coming now from sex. So definitely be careful who you're dealing with. Also, there was a recall on Magnum condoms. They kept this kind of on the low, but there was a big recall for Magnum condoms. They were saying that some of them were faulty in the fact that they actually had holes in them, and they were sold anyway, as well as some of them not even having tips. Excuse me, having some sort of agent at the tip of the condom, which again is affecting or was affecting the both partners, male and female, and causing serious UTI infections, as well as aberrant vomiting, things like that. So definitely be careful. Also, fellas, you got to be careful who you're practicing oral sex with. Females too, but specifically speaking, there's been a spike. One of the ghetto hospitals I had put out a thing that there's been a spike in throat cancer that has been developing between with young people between the ages of 16 and 25. That there's been a huge rise or spike in throat cancer due to the fact that a lot of people are performing oral sex on people, and some of the people that they're performing this oral sex on are infected with, multiple diseases now. So what's happened is that some of these diseases are warring inside of the body of the infected people, which is then causing the disease then to redouble itself and come up with a different strain in order to survive in the host organism. So what we're looking at is the mitosis of sexually transmitted diseases right now, meaning they're coming together, the culmination of how these diseases are trying to gel into one big super disease, if you will, of which allegedly, this is real funny about this, as soon as they came out with it, that's how you know it was a fix is in. They come out with that, and then as soon as they said that they're already working on a vaccine for it. But a vaccine is not a cure. You understand? It's like an antidote. An antidote is not a cure either. You know what I mean? These are just little things that stave off the efficacy of whatever viral infection is existing within the host organism for a certain amount of time. So basically, they're kind of placeholders until they get where they need to get with it. You know what I'm saying? So that's going down. So definitely, please protect yourself. Watch out. Watch these people. Don't get caught up in all of this fake 60s, fake free love shit that they're trying to flip on everybody. Again, it's not real, man. They lying to you. You got people out here talking about how a lot of these genetic diseases is in the mind. Okay, whatever. All I'm saying is, whether you believe that or not, whether it's true or not, it doesn't change the fact that it's always better to be safe. You cannot lay down with dogs and expect not to get up with fleas, you know what I'm saying? So we need to really do the knowledge, and you really need to pay more attention. But again, a lot of our problems as an original people I'm seeing is not really more than the sex. It's the lack of intimacy. Our people have lost a certain degree of intimacy with one another, where from when we went from, change gonna come and, I can't do nothing or I can't live without you, baby, to, bitches ain't shit, or, you know what I mean, ain't no romance with the finance. These are the things that started to create the disconnect with us as lovers, you know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate because it's such a loving people. We could be doing a lot more with each other in that vein. But a lot of us have switched up what we perceive love to be for the domination of sex and power. You know what I mean? And you have a lot of people, again, with this conscious thing that you have to protect yourself spiritually, sexually from, just to make sure that you don't invoke or evoke any of the residual sexual energy of that person. You know? And this is male and female. Even though males, we can, you know, kind of like hit it and quit it, there's also an aspect of in us, though, that are you really on it like that because you're on it like that? Or are you on it like that because you don't really feel comfortable in being open with a woman? And I don't necessarily mean open like, you know, extra emotional, but to a degree, what makes anybody trust anybody else is the candidness of the person and a certain degree of vulnerability. And as a man, you get to a point where when you start to understand what vulnerability is, it actually empowers you. It actually makes you stronger when you understand what your own limitations may or may not be. Now, again, you know, metaphysical people, they be very, very literal sometimes and not as metaphysical as they should be with certain points. So when I say that it's like that, what I'm saying is it's more about, everything is about how you perceive the event happening. You know what I mean? Like certain people get spanking, a child will get a spanking and it really hurts and it really doesn't like it, whereas an adult might get a spanking and totally get off on it and be orgasmic. You understand? So it's always perception, man. And our perception is usually based upon our given circumstances and environment, unfortunately. You know? So until we start running our own environments, our own places and things like that, a lot of us are still kind of stuck on stupid, and a lot of us are kind of stuck in those situations. You know? So we got to do the knowledge of that. Another thing, speaking of sex, they done turned your man, like we said they was going to do, they done turned your man into the next Tiger Woods. Right? Turn him into a sexual deviant. Now, if anybody does not see the pattern in these socio-geopolitical attacks of original men who choose to go that route, you're a damn fool. Because if you don't see the parallel between what just happened with this dude, what happened with Tiger Woods, what happened with any other black man that they accused from having sex from all these different women and all this other stuff, it's like you got to peep, man. You got to peep game. But see, like I said, we are found wanting or guilty based upon our own mouth, what we say we're going to be, what we say we're going to do. So when this man came out and said that his hero was Clarence Thomas, that was it. Me and the Queen looked at each other and was like, oh, it's a wrap for him. Because once you set yourself in line like that, they're going to take you down. It's okay, this is what it is. And they only wanted this nigga as a minstrel anyway, as it means to put out the fake reality like they actually had another contender to actually take this dude out of office. That's really their problem. They don't really have nobody that they can get this guy out with. So now that they feel that they're coming back on an upswing, they want to be able to get rid of who, you know, the real token and then put in the white token. But see, the white tokens they got are not really adding up to nothing. People is not really feeling them. You know, people don't really like Mormons. You know, regular Americans, people don't really, even though they may not understand what Mormonism is, essentially like we do, they just don't like it for the fact that they don't feel that they Christian. You know what I mean? And they're not. But it doesn't change the fact that that Mormons got the right to the same way to vote in a federal democracy, the same way everybody else do. The only people who are going to be disenfranchised out of a federal participation in that is original people, specifically original people dealing with their original true nationality. We're the only real disenfranchised one, but technically speaking, we're really the only real, quote-unquote, American citizens. Because we were the ones that was here before the country. So in that, we created the Articles of Association, Articles of Federation for these people to allow to have a constitution. So in that vein, we can't necessarily use the Constitution as a means of rights of protection for ourselves. But you can use it as a means to tell them what they are bound to do and what they are obligated to follow. You can't say that you're sovereign in this and then use the Constitution, the United States Constitution, to say that you are that. But like we said, and I think we're the first people on this show to let you know, challenge of jurisdiction does not automatically equate adjudication. Meaning, just because you challenge the jurisdiction and they don't have jurisdiction, and even if they acknowledge it, they don't necessarily have the right to let you go either, or to just get it right there either. Because in their system, in their fiction, it turns up as a law, or it turns up as a void. So something has to compensate for whatever it is they wasn't able to get out of you. So they got to keep it going in hopes that they'll find a way to code you back into some sort of contract. So technically speaking, they've created a system, like I said, that is perpetually in the favor of the asshole. Excuse my French for the young listeners. But sometimes, you know how it is. Anyway, and I'm sure you heard worse. But to keep it real, a lot of it also turns into how much of this you're internalizing as happening to you. You know? So, and also, did some calling this week to find out, in New England specifically, to find out about the quote-unquote Bunker Hill flag, and who on record, in their records at least, have some sort of annotation towards it, who has superior claim. And this little white girl told me the Commonwealth of New England. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't know. I knew New England was a Commonwealth, but I didn't know they referred to it as that, the Commonwealth of New England. I was not aware of that. So in researching that, it took me to the Chamber of Commerce. In researching that, all to find, who's saying what about this flag. Now, I know what it is. You know what it is. But in the quote-unquote real world, right, wink, wink, which is the illusion, they have already put claim to that. Matter of fact, there's two different paintings with the Bunker Hill flag, because the main one that we all know with the Moor in the forefront is the one that is most seen, but they also got one where they painted the Moor white. Just like they got a version of the Declaration of Independence thing where they where the black man with the red scarf, they transferred him to it, made him white. Because what we're also going through now is a form of what they refer to as revisionist history. Revisionist history. So they are already revising. Right now in Spain, there is a campaign that says that the Moors, that the Spanish Inquisition, which was the attack on the Moorish, the Moorish empire in that part of the world, they're basically trying to say that didn't happen. But what you got to do now too is that the so-called Inquisition and the so-called Salem witch trials and all that, all the same thing, because it's the same people trying to exact that. And again, we're talking about stuff on the colony, because most of the history that you have, what you got to really do the knowledge to, is that most of the so-called New England colonies, the ones that were, again, connected to England, all of those were set up in the 16th century. All of them, okay? And you do the knowledge on the records and when they were founded and who did what. They all was founded between, let's say, the beginning of the 1600s and as late as 1666. So that means that the foment, or what they refer to as the bulwark, right? The BULWARK, the bulwark of the whole operation took place then, whereas the earlier aspect of that took place really through the Moriscos. The people today that we refer to as Hispanics and Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and all of these different Spanish-speaking black people, they, back in the days, if we were in the 1400s, they would be the people that we would be referring to as the so-called Moriscos or Spaniards or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Now you're going to have European scholars, Caucasian American history scholars that's going to come out and they'll say, no, that's not true, because if that's the case, then how come the people who are there still speak Italian? And the people over here in this part of the world are speaking, regular Spanish. Different, more, because like certain people, certain Spanish nations speak what they refer to as better Spanish than others, right? I got it wrong. So, the way that we can check this in terms of Hispanic people being, the original Moriscos or the Mudejas or, the quote-unquote grouping of people that came out of the amalgamation with the Moors, those people, a lot of them, the term Hispanic comes from the term Hispaniola, which was the name of the island of what is Haiti in the Dominican Republic. You know what I mean? So, specifically speaking, those people who are in Italy today are really the ones who helped expatriate the Moriscos and them people after they came up. Because when the Moriscos took over, they still had the so-called Christian serfs, or what they refer to as the Circassian, Circassian, Circassian slaves, who then moved up after the traditional Moors were expelled and went back to different parts of Africa and came over here. They then were rocking for a while under the Medicis and them and the Warburgs and them, and then they got supplanted when Alessandro was assassinated, or was a coup d'etat took place where the Castilian side of the family came and took over. He was set up by his cousin, Lorenzo. And that became the end of that, And then from there, that's when everything started, again, to be reorganized and switched up. So that way, by the 1600s, the so-called Spanish colonies that were now being, the so-called Moorish dominions that was over here, that also owned the colonies and plantations that some of these Circassians was on, were now being reorganized under the term Spanish by the year 1526. So that way, by the 1600s, now the Spanish colonies that was over here are now being, again, reabsorbed into this new Spanish idea as Spain now as the monarchy, as opposed to the Almohad and the Almoravid or any other Moorish dynasty that was rocky. Once they supplanted them, that was it. And as they say, the rest is history. So in this revisionist history now, they want us to accept the fact that, no, we weren't killing all of these Moors and these women and children and forcing Moors to go to Catholic schools and all this other type of stuff or whatever to enforce the Catholic system. They want us to believe that this is not, that they weren't doing that now. So the same way they're doing that is the same way I said over here, they're creating these different films and movies like the Confederate States of America and, these alternative American history futures in which we're not in it. Or we're not in the past, you know what I mean? So regardless of whatever they are saying it is, we know that that is not the case. So really it's about us not getting caught up in that and applying what we know to our position, history, culture, what have you. So the guy who was allegedly a part of the Mexican cartel that killed, that tried to assassinate the president recently. And for an assassination attempt, if you notice, it's really been played down. That's what kind of lets me do the knowledge that it was definitely like a trial run for them in some way, you know, because the whole shooting of the Gifford chick got way more coverage than this. So it seemed like they just kind of did like a Hail Mary pass out there and see how it would go, how it would be received, and then basically they just kind of retooled this guy. But again, this guy is part of the same cartel, or comes from the remnants of the cartel that was a part or privy to the Fast and Furious operation that is now calling for people like Eric Holder and these people to get removed from office. Interesting enough, they said that they found trace elements of LSD in his system, which also lets me know that it's probably some CIA government shit. The same way the guy who allegedly is running Al-Qaeda right now, Al-Qazawi is his name, I believe it is, Anwar Al-Qazawi, you know, some name like that or whatever. But that guy, all of the people who, the quote-unquote operating heads of the so-called Al-Qaeda right now, are all people who served extensive time in Guantanamo Bay, coincidentally. So it seems like as soon as these guys was let loose, first thing they did was went back home and then basically set up a terrorist organization. But they said 80% of the people that they actually caught had nothing to do with it. So how is it that the people who they initially locked down were not even really radicals or nothing like that when they locked them down? By the time they let them out, these dudes are setting up whole terrorist cell networks and all this. Where they getting all of that hooked up with? And why would their people, if they know that they've been locked D like that, why would they even embrace them and put them on like that? Because this is a money thing. This is about the transference of currency, money, and to block the world's ascendancy into using a substantial form of international currency. Everything that's going on is really to stop the world from going back to a gold standard. That's why we as so-called original people, indigenous, Moors, Comesians, RBG, whatever it is, you know what I mean? I feel like at different points we're all of these different things. You know what I'm saying? Because all of these come from the divine source, and that's us. So specifically speaking, when you try to promote, let's say we'll put one more over the other and then try to get everybody to say this one is better than this one, this knowledge thing, this culture thing that we're talking about is not about being better than one another, and it's not about necessarily being right all the time, in my opinion, or trying to always put somebody else's so-called doctrine or understanding of whatever the thing is, or whatever the thing is, you know what I'm saying? But in the end, it comes down to how open you are for dialogue. I'm not talking about debate. I'm not talking about arguing. I'm not talking about difference of opinion. I just mean getting to the point where we allow everybody to still think what the hell they want to think, so long as we get to a general consensus about how we're going to move in a pseudo-collective manner. So the reason why I said the LSD thing is because the LSD was a derivative of an opiate, which is a man-made synthetic version of mescaline, essentially, which, again, is really another byproduct for, like, mushrooms and specifically dimethyltryptamine. There's a good book you can get called DMT, The Spirit Molecule, by Richard Straussman, I think is his name, and it's very, very good. Strictly DMT specifically because of the fact that they have found, that's a good book. Another good book to check out is a book called The Cosmic Serpent by James Narby. That's pretty good. Also, The Mystic Mushroom, going back, I forget the author's name, but it goes all the way back to the Essene, the Essene movement, of which allegedly Christ was a part of the order back in the days, and the fact that when you look at the Hebrew priests of old, they always wore these big hats that, like even chefs, when you see them with the chefs, they wear the big hats with the poof coming out the top, which basically looks like the mushroom. Because symbolically, this is what a lot of the energy that they was using during the time to promote that. You know what I'm saying? So specifically speaking, that's what's going on with that. The other aspect of this too is that, like I said, they had a mock trial a couple of weeks ago in which the British members of the Temple Bar Barrister Association of London City Incorporated came over here to basically try to re-extend the jurisdiction. One of the lawyers, allegedly, who did that is the son of the guy in London who helped patent the, I guess, London version of LSD back in the late 50s, early 60s, when CIA was really starting to get on the ball with stuff. But specifically speaking, going back to that, they used or created that whole flower power, mind-altering 60s movement due to the energy that was hitting the planet at the time and the fact that the dawning of the age of Aquarius was beginning in people. So people were starting to feel kind of like how they feel now, but only it was more of a anything is possible type feeling, or at least that's how it seems, or at least that's how they market it when I look at stories and movies and read books and stuff about the 60s and stuff, as well as talk to people who from there. It seems like there was this nostalgic feeling, this future almost nostalgic feeling of taking everything and things can actually change into something better. The drugs was basically there to dilute that and move it from a Aquarian prize into a more Piscean, Neptunian type of thing. Freedom with no consequences, because in that everything body with in the 70s and in the 80s, which was AIDS and crack and the other stuff, which then that. They said the whole Woodstock LSD movement really came with the bodyguard, and it turned into a blood, almost like a bloodbath riot type of thing, of which the one casualty in the whole black man who allegedly who was stomped to death by over 100 Hell's Angel people. Nobody went to jail. Mick Jagger and them, didn't, much of an issue about it, and the rest is history, But they said that was basically the death knell. They did the same thing when disco died in the 70s when they had a virtual Shea Stadium where everybody rioted when they started playing this disco. I started and destroyed it all. But that stuff to go to make way for him, which is almost the total opposite of all music up to that point. So throughout the creation of the music and culture that existed before the rise of the hip-hop generation and hip-hop culture, drugs as a means of distraction and mind-altering for the betterment of the adversary became the prominent form of control. Because then once the epidemic hit, they now had the cause to in and act as death squads, like when they created TNT in New York and Crash in L.A. and all of these death squad type police, which was really the precursor to things like Blackwater and all of that today. Drugs played an eminent role in facilitating the money to make a lot of that happen. All the people in the Silicon Valley and all of that, Bill Gates and them, they was all the kids of all of them hippies people who went back to work, basically helped run corporate America, and then their kids basically kind of used that. IT generation came, and then they flipped that into the whole technological thing. The same way they, in our era, the MySpace people, the Napster, the Facebook, these are all descended from the same people. We think they're different because generationally we don't look at things in a generational perspective, because our consciousness a lot of times is based upon how we feel about ourselves. A lot of it's based on our consciousness and how we feel. This is why sometimes this knowledge will drive people crazy. We'll have a bunch of functioning crazy people walking around, building and giving people knowledge and stuff, but really psychologically they're very imbalanced. The way that you can tell this in people, one sign to look for is those people who have a hard time saying no to other people, or those people who talk about self-sufficiency and self-sovereignty and this, and that, but then you'll never see them doing nothing by themselves. Forgiveness comes in threes, right? Or they say gunplay happens at 3 stages. The first shot can be taken as a warning, or, the first shot is taken as a warning. The first shot could be a misfire. The second shot then becomes the warning, whereas the third shot now is gunplay. So it's the same thing in dealing with political agenda. If you do it one time to me, maybe that's whatever. If you do it 2 times, then we got to start to get why. By the 3rd time, that's what it is. That's when this is where the whole 3 strikes you out should come out. Like, we don't find it ill that they equated the whole death penalty and doing time thing to baseball. Baseball itself has an intricate Masonic game. The so-called national pastime was another form that was instituted by us originally. All of these ball games are to play when, as the Jaguar people, from we practice that. Specifically, when it comes to common Negro, they was the Anyway, they used it as a means to unify again the white males, the same way they use NASCAR today. Like, they have a term that they were using around the time of the Bush elections, where they were really looking to secure the vote of the NASCAR dads. So to know what that means, you would have to turn on NASCAR one day, Saturday afternoon, and look and see the different dads that's there with their sons, and the majority of them happen to be Caucasian. So why not just say that you want votes? You look specifically for votes from white males. Because if a white man comes out and says that he is trying to get the white vote, he is automatically perceived as a racist because of the system that he perpetuated to make it so that way he could only vote for quote-unquote white men. But the running logic is also, if a black man runs for office, then if he gets in, there's only but so much, if anything, he can do for black people. You can't go in there like if you was a black man going in there and say, no, I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna help the black community and do this outright. For some reason, there is a perception then that you won't get elected. So let's take that to its conclusion. Where does this perception come from? What is this perception? Who is perpetuating this? It's not me. And this is not just from people who deal in racial politics. This is just everybody. Whereas if a white man comes out, Mitt Romney, no, not Romney, the other one, the other idiot, was on TV in a debate, and they was like, oh, well, Rick Perry. They said, well, you preside over Texas. They've had the most executions in the country. This nigga went in to name exactly how many executions there was, and everybody he said, and we'll keep doing. Now, we know most of the people being executed on death row on that is quote-unquote minority people, black, so-called Latino, Mexican, whatever, and poor white. And he got a standing applause from that. So what are they saying? They're saying that it's cool. So when you come out as a conservative, neocon, ultra-conservative, compassionate conservative, so-called what people perceive as Republican, then it's a given then that you don't like black people. And you can do whatever you want to do, and it's okay. People can come out against you democratically, but they don't necessarily try to sanction you unless you do something real crazy. And in the end, it's an understanding that then if you come from a certain position as a white man, you can come out and basically veil it out that you're into killing, quote-unquote, minorities. But the minority is really them. But they are the majority in the federal government, which is why then they can claim that. Because the so-called black representation in the Congress is basically useless. They don't really have any power. Don't believe me? Ask Cynthia McKinney. She'll tell you. So drugs, like I said, is a natural part of how statecraft manipulates and rules its society, going all the way back to Britain during the British East India Company's war against China. It wasn't the British Empire against war in China. It was just the corporation of the British East India Company going against them. So in the process of that, they learned the way of the opiate and how to transfer drugs and stuff like that through the old Chinese who got that from the old Nagars, So essentially, in flipping the drug culture, they brought it to England and started creating the opium dens, and then eventually by-produced that to America, which was already now, by the 1800s, these white people already started getting into all of the ayahuasca and peyote and wabacho that they was getting off of the Mexican Indians or the blacks or whatever that they was enslaving and taking in, which then created the subdivision market that eventually turned into the pharmacy market. Johnson & Johnson. These people basically funded these things into pharmaceutical researchers because now everything was being reorganized under the British Ingolstadt model. Ingolstadt University, the same university that Frankenstein went to. So what they found in certain Asiatic people is that there's something in the human brain that's hardwired to intake things like DMT and mushrooms and marijuana. That each one is a different stage. So like the marijuana goes into the mushroom, and the mushroom into the DMT, and then let's say the DMT into the peyote or the ayahuasca or whatever. But in that, the progression of these things were not necessarily done as a recreation. See what I'm saying? Everything from the old dominions has to be reorganized into the new. Everything. But it has to be brought forth in a manner where it can still produce what it did before, but not under the same jurisdiction. So, whereas the Shechems and Medicine Kings would, of things like the Quechua Society or the False Faith Society, would take these things in and take the youth up with them. And then just like in Inception, they would then be in the operating system of nature, in which now the plants themselves tell them what they do. Like, how do you think they found out that, the plant, if you take this plant, it'll cure this, or if you take this plant, it'll kill you or not? Well, like, how do they find that out without killing themselves? You find that out by asking the only people who would know, and that would be plants. So how do you do that? You would take something that is of the genetic membrane or viscous material of the plant, which then, through your own human RNA, DNA matrix, can upload and then get into a space to be able to communicate telepathically with this thing through symbolism and visualization. So the tree is telling you what it is. That's why in Lord of the Rings, the trees was the one setting it on the people when they found out that Sauron was on his BS, cutting them down for industry. That's why if you hug a tree first thing in the morning, a brother Joel, piece of Joel, told me this. He hugged a tree one time real early in the morning, he said, and then he got just a burst where, like, when he let go, like, he almost, like, passed out. But it was like a burst of energy because this is where they at. There's this movie called Monsters about a future where aliens have kind of like decimated parts of the United States and Mexico, and the aliens in this movie lay their eggs in the trees. For the first time in 150 years, a redwood tree fell down in the redwood forest, and somebody was there with a cell phone and caught it on tape. So if somebody is there, there is a sound when a tree falls. But this thing is so big that they don't know what to do with it because it fell right in the path to get deeper into the Yellowstone. Of all the trees to fall, there's this one tree that fell right in the main path that everybody got to take to get into the aspects of the park. The only way to do it is to go around the tree or pick the tree up, but how are they going to do that? This tree is like 120 meters, man. You know how tall that is? And this thing was a lot. So they don't know. So they're saying that they should just leave it there and maybe just cut a path through it. But how are they going to cut it? Half of it's petrified. A redwood tree in this is the first time in 150 years, the last month adjacent, this giant redwood tree fell into the path in Yellowstone, in California, around where the redwoods. So to get further into the rest of the park, you got to pass that, but this tree is now blocking the path. So symbolically, think about that. The tree is blocking the path for people to get further into the thing. Because redwoods don't fall like that very often. Like I said, it's the first time in 150 years. So symbolically, where we're going with this is everything is coming to a point where Kings are starting to become knowledgeable of themselves. So, specifically speaking, then, this is why now they want to start to, they can't stop anything, so they want to find a way to have things be somewhat legal, but then still have the ability to lock people up for it, and you can't keep doing it. This is why you got an instance where you had a pig the other day who pulled another pig over for speeding and arrested him because this thing was going 120 miles an hour. And he wasn't even chasing nobody. So specifically speaking, it becomes an issue of how we internalize the information and what we're doing this thing for. If you base drugs or what they perceive as drugs, which is everything that they're selling legally, then everybody's addicted. But nothing that is living can be a drug. This is why George Washington made so much money off of growing weed and hemp, of which the paper that was supplied from that for the Declaration came from the fields that he was in charge of. He was also one of the biggest distillery people in the country. This dude was selling mad hooch. So it's an inbred culture of regurgitating ideas and masking them as something else and trying to absorb the power from them while dejecting the people who originally created the thing in the first place. So in that, things like dimethyltryptamine and these things are exclusively done usually by people of the Caucasian persuasion, whereas we stick to, other stuff like basic stuff like coke, heroin and stuff. It's only now you hear niggas getting into pills and all of this type of stuff. We never used to do all of that. But as, Lil Wayne goes from a guitar to a skateboard, priorities change for the American public, because they base their reality on shit like that. There was a guy named Terrence McCullum who wrote about his findings on DMT and stuff like that, and he presumed that it took you to the death realm, to the realm where things transform from one state to the next. So in a sense, the Asaurian realm. But I think it may be more, it activates the access codes to you specifically, which is why in our cultures when we did them, you didn't do any of that stuff to a certain age. Like in the real mystery system, you didn't really get the real stuff until you was like 44. Because we're talking about a time where most people live to like 30. So if you got it to 44, you was next level. So traditionally speaking, how we internalize these mechanisms to access these internalized codes within ourselves, these things were then put back into society under a life, which then allowed the new regulator to push for an agenda of control by creating the addiction by allowing the addiction to be that. Because at one time, alcohol was illegal, and they flipped that. At one time, they moved Thanksgiving up. At one time, Thanksgiving was further into like September, October. They flipped it to give more time for the lead up to Christmas. So the dictates of financial security also are used as an occupying, or I would say a transmitting utility of perception and action. So anything that can fully help you become self-aware then has to be put out, which is why alternative forms have to be used until you can be in a situation where you're in the presence of a good guide to help you do something like that. You know, there are some people who do cocaine or crack and have divine experiences in the moment of doing that. So this is not to advocate crack use or anything like that, but it is to say that some people are more predisposed to be activated in that Piscean, especially if you're, you know, some type of water sign, because there's a lot of information that gets transferred into that, which is why most people who turn into junkies and stuff like that all have the same habits, because they start to occupy the same species mind pattern of the entity that girdles the realm of that addiction. So people who are addicted to weed have a certain egregore above them. People who are addicted to heroin have an egregore with them, alcohol with them. And then you have subdivisions in that. Certain people who are addicted, they don't do nothing else but drink Henny. That's all they drink. And they're not drunk per se, but they always drinking. They always got a drink in their hand. So what's happening is that the body is the Neptunian and Piscean aspects of the body that usually manifest through the cerebral system, is affecting the brain, then gets a lot of it turns into gas due to the fact that it's alcohol. So the water is evaporating, the water within the liquid. But the water in the liquid is what makes the spirit. The spirit is the entity inside it. The alcohol is evaporating because the spirit in the alcohol is feeding on the liquid or the water that's being intaked. Being internalized. So again, this creates this symbiotic relationship between you, the addiction, and the addiction's ability to subsist in the reality, because it's all about keeping the reality on, keeping the monotony of the reality the same. So it's more like the binary system of the body gets activated, or you learn how to use it based on the system of awareness that comes from being able to interact with yourself in an aspect that has not been manipulated through some sort of trauma. See what I'm saying? That's why in the movies, like we said before, the white people always embrace the darkness because it's the opposite of themselves. Black people in it usually are running from the darkness in that, because we know that it essentially is us in our abstract, non-physical, eternal self. Yet our fixation on the reality is what allows us to perceive this and understand what we are striving to be, and forgive ourselves from what we are. You know what I'm saying? like a lot of the disdain people will have for you based on things that based on things that they perceive you as, not based on who you are. It's based on what the image of you is represented as, or what they have internalized or understood that image to be. And from that, the judgment is either made or not made, depending upon the ego of that person. So whatever people talk about they don't like about me or Selena or you or whoever is really talking about aspects in themselves that either they don't have and they resent you for displaying them almost effortlessly, or without all of what they perceive you got to go through to get that, or they feel that they are at a level where you are seen as a nemesis. The nemesis in the story is always created from the friend. When I think about all my quote-unquote enemies, it's all people I was cool with. You know, or and it's always been, in my recollection at least, based on me not performing in a certain manner. Like there's a lot of expectation that comes along with talent. And as parents, we should talk to our children because they're beautiful and because they are blessed with parents who have a degree of consciousness and care about something more than the average. We should instill in them what the responsibility of beauty, what comes along with that. Like our mothers and fathers never told us, or not all of us at least, you know, if you was a certain way that people would hate on you just because of how you look. They usually would apply that, or we would see that applied to situations like watching a John Hughes movie, you know, but that was usually Caucasian people, Caucasian children who were, you know, raised in the suburbs with their little hang-ups or whatever. So those of us that didn't emulate that had to put ourselves almost in a different position, almost an abstract position, and not even look at them as, you know, rich white kids with nothing to have problems about, and look at it as the story. So us now living our lives, we were never really taught, based upon us dealing with the color thing so much, that we were beautiful. It always has to be, with us and with beauty in mainstream, it always has to be something that has to be reinforced. It always has to be given back to you, or you have to be inspired to get it again. You know, it's always like a coming up, like you're just always downtrodden, you know, from the ghetto, you know, life in Cracktown, like that type of the corner, like it always has to be something like that. When a lot of black people never grew up like that. A lot of black people grew up in really nice neighborhoods and are really good people and never had no knowledge about none of that. And now got consciousness and now want to do shit, but they can't. But there's a certain climate where it's like, well, you know, you got to be careful. This is when knowing how to understand psychic behavior and how it's manifested through physical behavior becomes a plus. The key to that is then understanding art and how art relates to the subconscious mind as a gateway into the physical expression of it. You know, some people have you know, twitches and stuff, and will tell you, no, they don't have it. Why are they doing it? because that's the control the idea has latched on into the body. There was some sort of physical trauma that created the reaction that caused this sort of physical display of a malfunction somewhere. Yet in this society, they've coined everything as a disorder. Some people is just plain evil. Some people is just plain mean. Some people just don't care. They know you're doing good. They know you're doing right. All of that. They still don't care. They don't care. Black people, white people, Chinese people, Mexican people, Indian people, Aleutian people. They don't care. And they do things so fast on such a grand scale all the time now that it's almost unapparent. It's like nothing. Like Eleni came and is now in the tail end as it passed through, like we said it would. But essentially, the effects of it, everybody was purporting all of this, destruction, but the evidence of it was really the physical stuff. How were you feeling during the passing of that? Did you feel anything? How has your life been since this happened? How have you looked at things spiritually? Because the gateway was open and is open. So things are coming and going, whether we see them or not. Imagine going to sleep, laying down, going to sleep, and then opening your eyes and being in a room where it's packed with people just standing there all around the bed just staring at you. That's the false projection of what they have used to encase our dream space in. Our dream space has been localized based on all of these cell phone towers and all that. And because as conscious as we are, most of us still don't have diodes for our phones or diodes for our computers or anything like that. So we still somewhat being bombarded with stuff. So the hang-up in all of this is always money, because that's the thing that makes everything happen. Yet the money that is made, again, in the so-called Forbes, billionaires, and all of that is based on advertising revenue, which then means that all of the real money is coming from the man. All of it. So whether it's gold or silver, in some way, prior to you getting it, unless you got your own mind and your own mint, their hands is on it somehow. You dig what I'm saying? So whether you're substantiated or not, it's still, again, something in which you have to be able to exercise and defend and be ready to do that. Yet that, again, is still something material that can be taken, transferred, and given. It's about how to manipulate the reality enough to take out of it what you need and put back into it what's not yours. More than being this or that, because this society or reality in its present state is not. The only thing that it is black and white, which is why it's juxtaposed between these two so-called races, which are really just enemy combatants based upon old school obligations. And this has only been in the 6,000-year cycle of this occurrence. So this is not by no means the breadth of our existence. This is just how it's been for the past 6,000 some odd years. So if we want something better, we obviously cannot do it how it was done prior to this. So our position is, if that's the case, then what do we really want to do? So in having a consensus and a dialogue with the people, your emails and things like that then can be used as evidence for us then to say, okay, well, this amount of people is saying that we should all do this, or this amount of people is saying we all should do that. Okay, then what then do we do to implement that? And what that becomes for the people. See, sovereignty. It's really a aspect of how we view ourselves, you know. Yet the connections that we used to make, the rites of passage that we used to make have been supplanted and turned into these feats of strength in terms of surviving more than living. So, you know, being down to your last is the norm for almost everybody. But see, when we say we down to our last, we could be down to like our last like $5. And these other people say they down to their last, they down to like their last like 10 mil, 15 mil, you know, yacht, you know, because none of it's in their name, so they can still use it. They got, like I said, they got the new hustles where the millionaires is renting their house out to rappers and yachts and all of that out to rappers or whatever, and then they living in condos. That's what they flipping here in Miami, living out here in condos and stuff, just so that way when things go back up, they can go in and buy or kick them people out, refurbish their crib, sell those condos, bring the economy back up because it's that the standard of living has to go up. Standard of living goes up 2.3% every, 5.5 years, because they need people to be pressed on how to make money. So they know that the banks done scammed everybody. They know all of that. But what they do to them, they give all of them money. And the people don't revolt. So they say, okay, well, they didn't revolt for that, so let's give them bonuses and then tell them that this is what we're doing. But then let's put a provision in that we can't even ask them what they do with the money. See what they do. Came in, didn't do nothing. They got mad, but okay, well, let's give them a stimulus. Yeah, they like that. Oh, they like that? Okay, that's cool. So what are we going to do in Africa? Okay, who do we got on standby? Okay, we want to open up the pipe. We want to extend the pipeline now from Morocco to the top, from Morocco through Tunis, through Libya, into Egypt. Okay, and then what we're going to do that to a possible pipeline then across the Straits of Gibraltar into Spain. How are we going to do that? Let's run it underwater. Okay, that's cool. You know what? Venice is sinking anyway. So this will give us a reason to have the Army Corps of Civil Engineers with them. And we'll see how that works. Okay, yeah, that'll work. And, you know, hypothesizing. It may not even be that deep. It may not even happen like that. But the point is, it's plausible. And these things just happen. They just gave BP oil rights again. So what are they going to do? They're going to send the Koreans over here to bomb the pipeline again? The country itself is at a state where it has to realize what it really is. You know what I'm saying? We know. Yet, when we say we know, like, there's levels, there's tiers of that. So that becomes a almost a double entendre or a rhetorical question, because the more we know we don't know. Or the same, those of us that say know that. So as we, move this thing into the future, these things that are here to, or at one time were in nature and whatever to help us, once we got to the level through rites of passage to be able to understand these things and then commune with nature. Because even in Genesis, it tells you that Adam then walked through the forest and God gave him dominion, told him to eat from this plant and go in there and name everything. And then he could talk to the animals and named all of them and all of that. So in this Adam, if we look at the Kabbalists or the hyper-Kabbalist surrealists like Dali and these people, death is the rebirth of life. So in this, let's say, Qliphoth type of outlook, it's a representation of how things that are made and are inherently evil are transformed into a form of beauty. And so Venus is used in this exchange as a veil, again, Venus then being Isis, as a veil of illusion to help graft Maya, which again is the goddess of illusion, into this strata in which we then use the perception of what we think we see and what we perceive it to be really what it is. And up until we know what it is, that's what it is. What we think it is what it is. So in that, then we cannot say we really know anything. What we do know is that the more we find out, the deeper we get into it. But then the more the grasp of the illusion loses hold. So certain things begin to malfunction and not necessarily work in accordance to the time factors of how it may work for everybody else. So you can't always expect things to, and we are learning this day by day in our own lives, we can't always learn to expect things to happen in a specific order or time. We can just kind of have the guideline and the beginning and end date of when we want to see it happen. And then do that. And in good faith, know that it's going to happen how it's supposed to. And that is a form of love without ownership. And we don't know how to do that as a people yet. We don't know how to really love somebody and just that. Like, I love you, man. You. That. And it's because of the fact we're so disconnected. If we didn't feel so disconnected, then it wouldn't be so much about what this one is saying and what that one is saying. It's because you really want to be able to talk to that person. You really want to be able to talk to you. They really want to be able to sit there with you and have a dialogue, but they know they've done something that them put them in a position where you don't want to fuck with them. You know what I mean? Or vice versa. Either way, it's a situation where a communication is not being had. Therefore, the organism that was created, which again is the relationship, is now in a sense being starved. So now it's turning against you and the other person and itself. It's literally tearing itself apart the more you disengage from it. Yet the more personally affected, the more personally offended, the longer the person holds on to the exchange. Whereas usually the person who is at the bad end is kind of over it. You know what I'm saying? But it becomes a system in which it's what they call a hieronymus machine. It's a form of a saying in alchemy. Hieronymus machine is it's basically like a theoretical box with a bunch of different gears and parts and stuff in it that a person has worked on for a long time and eventually works, but it's not necessarily put together in any specific way. So the lesson in alchemy in that, which is the jewel, is that more than the parts working, it's more of the will of the magician or the individual doing it and wanting it to work is what makes it work more than the parts or the machine itself actually working. So then in that, it is to say that maybe the machine really didn't work, but he or she saw it working, and therefore it did. Therefore, the lesson is still, again, both sides. It's how you see it here. We're in the higher realms. You see it all at once. Here you get it in aspects. So people like Empress Akweke and Myra already got all of the other pieces that she was doing the knowledge to, blessed the dead, in life. She got it all now, and she was conscious of all of us. So that's now an avatar, an ancestor with knowledge of self, like C. Freeman L. That because when these great ones leave, they all jump into our central nervous system and live in our memory. So our memories of them actualize them in being. So that chill that you feel is them or her or all of them. And then that tingle is them now actualizing in the nervous system and allowing the non-physical aspects of yourself to be open based upon your knowledge of what they represented. You see what I'm saying? So now in certain dreams or whatever reality, they now can become visual guides or representations for you to do the knowledge to based upon how you interacted with them in life. So in that it becomes almost a symbiotic revelation and relationship, because now in the ionosphere, she and the other great ones can now go through and then start doing their work to help, again, empower us. Especially, now too, because we're in Sagittarius, and that's the whole, hunter and knowing exactly what you want and dealing with the insecurities along the way that come up in you along the way of getting it. You know what I'm saying? That's why on Black Friday, the Black Knight as satellite that the Russians been trying to deal with passed over. That's not a coincidence, This guy Alford, Ben Fulford, is trying to put out a lawsuit against all of the bankers in the cartels and basically put a petition to the World Court to get them seen as international criminals the same way you would see, basic drug dealers or whatever. Because there's one law specifically that prohibits them from doing that on a mass scale. And that's why I think also went into the 9/11 thing, in my opinion, because they were on the verge of really going in on some white-collar crime based upon Milken and all of the names he gave up, because up until then, not everybody was up on the whole, the quote-unquote Illuminati thing. So certain people was, kind of in the dark about that. So when he got busted and started talking about how far up it went, this then put the FBI into hyper mode because they wasn't sure, who amongst them was informing on it. So he kind of just did a little stint or whatever. And they was looking to get rid of him anyway based upon the beef that he got into in the hit with Larry Flint, because Larry Flint started boning his sister, Jimmy Carter's sister. And at the time they was going out, Milken and Jimmy Carter's sister. So he started turning her out, and in turn she got him hooked with the Jesus thing. So in the process of that, that's when they got the case together and all that other stuff happened. But the part where he was allegedly down with the hit, that was alluded to in the book on the whole situation. So specifically speaking, again, we're talking about basically, nigga shit, like street stuff, but it's played out with these people who wear suit and ties and hats and stuff. you know. So now is a good time to really do the knowledge to what's going on, just due to being able to get the energy of this moon in Capricorn. Because Capricorn always deals with the core part of anything, the skeletal part, the foundation part of everything. So that's also a heavy Saturnian energy. So it's a lot of lessons that's being given out through this Saturnian energy. So look out for that. But it's really good for business. So now is a good time, you know, to get out your stuff, because Vesta is moving to 45 degrees, and because Pluto is heavily aspecting at this point, it's going to be great. 4 and 5 is 9, so that's born. That's bringing things to existence. So now is a good time to get, you know, certain business ventures on. Just look out for void of course moons along the way. Don't initiate contracts or sign things or, you know, initiate projects when the moon is going void of course, meaning when the moon is going from one phase to the next, which happens once every 2.5 days. There would be certain feelings of, again, insecurity, paranoia, people, you know, trying to take advantage of situations that you may be a part of or not be a part of. In aspects like that, where Pluto is directly giving it, but not fully dominating, it's good to be able to be honest with yourself in points in which you've been wrong, on points where your wrongness is pointed out, because then that helps with the moon that's dealing with the Capricorn energy to which then appeases Saturn as well, which then allows you not to receive the harsh lesson from it. You only will get the real harsh lesson at this period if you try to go against what you know you're supposed to be doing the knowledge to, in whatever venue that may be. You know what I mean? You know, but because the moon, you know, is going and coming together on that, is coming out with the deep, revealing the deep repression. So don't be surprised if there be things in the news with be some more kids or more bodies coming out, or they find that baby they've been looking for. That they kidnapped during the 0 month, the October month with Jason period. They're probably going to find her in a little while, based on Sagittarius, because Sagittarius is about finding things. So if you don't, you know, get caught up too much, you could really use this time to settle with old addictions, old demons, old relationships, stagnant relationships, unwanted understandings, dealings with whatever repressed sexuality you may or may not have. Dealing with all of that now is significant, but dealing with it is really what it's about, more than the outcome at this period. You know. So also, you know, you're going to have Venus and trining with Capricorn in the Earth sign as well. So that's going to be kind of fun in the sense of watching the expansiveness of beauty. You know, now would probably be the time when something significant will happen in one of the fashion industries or something like that, just due to the upper nobility of Venus in this expansive aspect. But also Jupiter then is in Taurus, which is very comfortable for it, you know. And then you got this Mercury Chiron thing that's been going on for a while now. Mercury and Chiron has been changing place in Virgo. So it's been very interesting in terms of how Earth signs have been going through changes in their like certain earth signs are feeling like certain, not pains in their stomach, but uncomfortable aspects deep, like in their core. But it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say pain, but it's a thing that's a reminiscent energy of the earth itself going through its metamorphosis as it's moving itself to this higher octave with the revealing of this, dark sun energy that is also coming off of all of us individually, So I guess we could take a call. If there's any. Peace. Super Radio. 678.
Hello.
Peace. Peace, brother. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Fine. This King Hamer, man. You talked to me last week. Private consultation. Yeah, I'm doing a whole lot. I'm doing a whole lot better. Doing a whole lot more movement. I haven't got to the other things you told me to do yet because I haven't had a chance to go to the store to get what I need. What we talked about. And the tree hugging, I haven't got around to the tree hugging because it's been raining lately. So I'm trying to get to that whenever it gets sunny. I had two questions. I had two questions.
What's that?
My first question is, I want to know why so much things is going on with the, I watch a whole bunch of sports. I don't know if everybody else do, but I watch a whole bunch of sports. I want to know why they having so many rituals going on with the sports, such as the molestations and a whole lot of other different things in football. I don't know if a lot of people know, but a lot of black quarterbacks is falling out, and all the white quarterbacks they putting up on the high pedestal. So I don't know if a lot of people notice that. Also in football, in last October, I had everybody wearing pink. Even though I noticed it was breast cancer awareness month. Yeah, that's a whole other ritual too that a lot of people don't understand, especially when they mix it with sports for men. So I just want you to talk about that.
Well, the word sports, right?
Okay.
Sports comes from the Latin sport, or spurt, which is S-P, it's kind of a Q-R, right? A sport. So that was the Roman league, the Roman state league of gladiators. All Western sports are based on the gladiatorial system. So the homoeroticism in it is just a aspect of the traditional aspect of how, or the traditional values of how the sport was passed on. So the rituals with the black athletes, again, black athletes had to literally break into the society of the Roman League to be recognized as worldly athletes. So even though Joe Louis and Jack Johnson and these people was knocking white boys out, was champions of the world, in America, the white man was still treating them like they was nothing. So there was still this need within them to prove that the original man still had something, even though they was all, with white women and stuff like that. That was part of the system that they had been brought up in. Because even though they was militant and stuff, they still had Jewish accountants and white trainers and stuff like that. So they was playing this delicate balance, This is like pre-organized boule, really. You know what I mean? So this is them, trying to just do something for black people but still do them, He may have really liked white women like that, That's on him. But he still was on some, going back to Harlem, showing people I'm still the people, everybody went back to Harlem, and people traditionally had a parade for them. And that parade was then seen on TV, and everybody else in the country then participated, who was black, participated, felt like they was in Harlem. You see what I'm saying? They shut that down. So instead, they created shit like Showtime at the Apollo. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Which is a great show. I'm not saying it's not a great show or was a great show. I'm just saying that it was reduced to that aspect, the pure entertainment aspect, and not the history as much to white America, because white America has been taught to disregard black people's history. See what I'm saying? That's why they be so amazed when they be finding out about us and stuff. So in the sports thing, these guys just are basically gladiators who at one time or the other been turned out by somebody like Sardusky. That shit happens more than you think. And it happens to some of these big black niggas in these teams and stuff like that now.
Yeah, that's what I was
going to say. But the problem is these dudes... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that I'm not surprised that it happened, but I'm just saying now it's just not coming out after so long, you know. Why it takes so long for it to come out.
But it's happened to major players. I'm saying some major players that we know of and love have been touched by this dude, probably. Mm-hmm. At least the ones that came through Penn State, especially if they came through his program. This nigga had a program. He had a foundation set up where he was picking boys up from the late 70s, from 77, 87, 97, 2007. We're in 2011. This is 5 decades. This is 50 years.
50 years of it.
50 years of molesting black boys, specifically. Where is these black women on The View and all of this shit? Talk about this now. How come nobody's focusing on remember, you know how whenever something like this happens with white men, they always come up with, like, the expose on, like, you know, where this type of pathology comes from. How come you're not coming up with the pathology of white people who specifically target and eat and kill and rape and beat black people? How come you don't have the show on that? How come I can see the one on Dahmer? How come I can see the movie on Jeffrey Dahmer eating black people, but in the movie making more white dudes? Come on, this is part of their culture that they're not expressing, that is a part of how they live. I'm not saying all white people are down with that. I'm just saying that there's a huge portion of the so-called elite that look at shit like that as a delicacy. The same way we eat foie gras. You know what that is, right?
Say it again.
Foie gras.
I never heard that term before.
You take a little baby duck, right? The baby duck?
Yeah.
Take a little baby duck, and they feed the baby duck to death, where it bursts its liver, its appendix, its liver. And then where they do fry it, they pate it, they cut it open, they pate it or whatever, and then they eat it like it's like caviar. But this is what they do. You see what I'm saying? So if they do that in China, it's a delicacy to eat, stay preserved, and have medicines where you drink and eat aborted fetuses and shit like that. Like, that's part of their culture. But Chinese people ain't telling you that. You know what I'm saying? This is how these other people live. And they come here and act like they're better than us. And these people is coming from positions where their whole culture is engineered genetically. You know? Mm-hmm. Japanese people have a game show and a TV show where they get like 5 women lined up, and they get a guy, and one of the women is either his mother and his sister, and it's like regular other women, and then he has to like rub them up and like have sex with them and figure out which one is. Like, this is the type of level of disconnection in society. But they also have one of the highest rates of suicide of women in the country, just like China. You know?
Yeah, I heard about China. You know, they under, like, you know, where they can only have like one child per couple and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so
and they're now screwed. They don't have no genetic material. That's why they're also in Africa. They're trying to regraft themselves back, man. When I was in Japan, I was seeing Japanese girls get tan. They would be in the tanning booth from the morning to the afternoon, this girl told me. From like 8 in the morning to like 3 o'clock. And then from 3 o'clock on, she just out partying, whatever. She had dread sewed in her hair. This chick is dark as meat. But that's not her color, but this is what she done darken herself up to be. What are these Africans doing? They're putting on bleaching cream. The guard told me, the guard, Heru, he said, he's like, yo, I was in Walmart and and the white girl was buying the Ambi bleaching cream. I was like, what the hell is going on? He was like, what the hell is going on, yo?
Trying to get that Sammy Sosa going on, man.
Imagine they use it to make them black and shit.
You seen what Sammy Sosa did to his stuff, man, last year.
You know, hey, man, you know, I saw some spy movie. A couple of spy movies I see where a white boy turns himself black. I read a comic book where the Punisher became black, and then got Rodney King right after that. In the comic, they Rodney King them on L.A. highways. But that's how they do, man. So that's what the sport thing is. They ritualizing these black men too, because they also want to phase regular sports out. They want soccer. Like, these people are crazy. They want soccer to be the number one thing here, and it's not going to happen. It's going to happen in like Latin America. You know what I mean? Meaning like California, Nevada, Arizona.
Yeah, something like that.
You know what I'm saying? Mexico, but you know what I mean? Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Not to say that black people don't play soccer. Like, it's not like that. I'm just saying, like, the traditional American person like that, they're not going to deal with that as the main joint. These white people, look at what they did for Sardusky. Can you imagine these white people? These white people don't care how many coaches come out as sexual deviants. They don't care. They're like Marv Albert was biting chicks in the 80s and getting away with it. So why would we, you know what I'm saying? Why would we think it's different now? Why y'all trying to act like you ain't down with it? Like, everybody's down with this. Everybody is down with it. Everybody's acting like they're not down. This is what they do. And unfortunately, I'm not trying to isolate societies and societies, whatever, but that's how they use their society thing like that. You'll never know you're with a white Mason unless he tell you. Mm-hmm. I always know I'm with a black Mason. He's going to have it on his hat. He'll have it on his back.
I remember this one guy, I was trying to get a house at the time, and I remember one guy, he had a Mason ring on his left finger, his left ring finger, and I'm looking at him like, man. At first, I didn't know what that was until I started doing my research. I'm like, oh, so this is what these guys is now. That's how I found out he was a Mason, because I
don't know the ring on his finger. But he ain't going to tell you, right? But he ain't necessarily going to come out and tell you. And he ain't going to tell you over so much because he assumed you don't know. Because the secret is he don't know. But he knows that he got more.
I asked him about the ring, and all he did was just hold it up and then kissed it.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tell me about it.
That's the ritual of silence do good. That silence do good. That was a code name for so-called Benjamin Franklin, which is really a code name for Benjamin Banneker.
Yeah, Benjamin Banneker.
That silence do good. You know what I mean? So that's, again, he's telling you what I'm really down with, what he really down with. And again, nobody got the right rights if you was born white, man. This dude flipped it up. Came in our time, try to flip it back. People like York and people like that, but that's only for those people who went through that form of right. Not everybody felt comfortable dealing with him like that. Not everybody. Any president is just how far we're going to take it. Like, if you're willing to come out, I'm this and I'm that, what are you doing? Like how many people are you dealing with day to day? You know what I mean? People perceive is going to use, so they want to perceive that the sports people want put to the side and almost elevate to one for that. But because, again, these people have been which is probably the new slogan now for molestation, because they are now keeping the silence, but really they should be that they'll never play in America again, because all of these dudes is also under contract. A lot of these guys. The more money you get with them people, the harder it is to maintain you. As
Hello.
They really didn't like Pimp C, because really what Pimp C was talking about, he was talking about insurance, that rappers need to unionize. You never hear Jay-Z, as much as he's a great businessman, you'll never hear him use that word, because his business model is based upon the Western corporate model. Using him as an example. So when Pimp C started talking that unionized shit, rappers getting one health insurance, some unified, some now he died from scissor. Since when Lil Wayne's been drinking scissor for how long?
Since 2005.
Right?
I've been keeping up with
since we who didn't live in Houston found out what it was, which is when Scarface and them started talking about it in records, or when he started coming out. So in that, the only person I knew who died from that was DJ Screw, bless the dead.
Yeah,
and
DJ
then
Screw and Big Mo. Big Mo died from it too.
Right. But look at the physiology, the physical representations of those men. You know what I mean? Like they could have lived. It was kind of like Big Pun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lil Wayne still here. He drinking much of them. And he's smaller than them. So it's not about size and none of that. All of that shit is material. Is what your will is dictating in this reality. Is what you're gonna get, what you're not gonna get.
But from what I heard, when they killed, they targeted Pimp C because they didn't want him because they didn't want him telling the truth no more about Jeezy.
No, they didn't.
About Jeezy, who was lying about him selling so much cocaine and all that, and he ratted out on Big Meech. Everybody he ratted out Big Meech so he can become the top rapper. That's what happened. And Jay-Z, what he did, because Jay-Z been falsifying since Jazzo. Jay-Z been falsifying since Jazzo. He never sold dope in his life, never. And dudes who falsify like that, T.I., Jeezy, and Jay-Z, they gonna run together. That's why they did that song Swagger Like Us. People don't peep it, man. It's so easy though.
That's right, man. That's right. But at the same time, it was a great record. See, that's all the people care about, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like we give people too much credit, and what I think happens with us is we got to get out of the mind frame of looking at these people like they're regular people. Once these people decide that money is everything, and that's on my mind, that's somebody who is Luciferian. You know what I'm saying? Regardless to whatever.
That's what Kanye converted to now. He Luciferian now.
Yeah. So as a Luciferian, that's what you into. That's your God. So if that's your God, then that's cool. We could do business, but that don't mean that I'm going to trust you or do over so much business. Once I get my money, I'm out. But I'm only going to do business if it's something that's advantageous for me. And to guarantee that, I'm going to make it so that way the people benefit from that too. So instead of you just doing a record, nigga, no, you want to do something with me, let's donate $250,000 to these people right here today. Cut the check. And let's do that, man. To this food today.
Jay-Z into poisoning people in Africa with the water, man. He's not going to do that, man. People still think he's catching them people over there, man. He's not going to do that. Jay-Z's not going to give you no money. You're not going to help the hood like that.
That's my point. So why would I even go and expect these people to have some sort of morals or scruples as to what's really happened in the Marcy Project? I would be a fool. All I could do for this individual would be to appreciate whatever music is cool or not. But in that's it. That's their contribution in my life. But some people base their entire life. You understand? So when you say something against this person, you say something against them because these people worship these people.
Yeah, they say you hate
Luciferian. See, the other part of Luciferianship is that you have to get worshipers.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people that's out here is trying to get worshipers. They're trying to get people to always fawn on them and all of that. When your deeds match up with your actions, the people reward you. I know that for a fact, son. Like nobody could tell me. So whatever people tell people that you got to do to get on is a damn lie. You could sustain yourself with nothing. Me and this woman lived off change, literal change, dimes, quarters. We had jobs. Had jobs and was living off of change for at least a year and still managing to raise the babies and go out to Myra every Friday on gas fumes. Go out there every Friday for 4 years straight doing the knowledge to this paperwork. So people, this is my first two children, Aries and Victory. Big up to them.
Yeah.
So it's a thing. That's what I'm saying with you, brother. The sports thing is good because it's expression, but what these people have turned it into is like horse racing. So what I think they're going to do is bankrupt, is force these dudes to accept some whack contract because now they done wasted man time, you know, and now some of them is obligated to contracts that they done in between, and they got to wait to do those before they could play. So this is now creating a situation where a whole new crop of dudes is going to come up, like with the rappers.
Yeah,
and they're going to get rid of these dudes and then try to flip iller contracts where you might get more money, but you really be a slave. This generation of ballers is the last one to ever really going to have it where they can have shut. The new niggas that come in, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
That's why they had.
Same thing as football.
That's why they had the NFL lockout and now the NBA lockout. And you know they did the NBA lockout in 96, 98. You know they did that before already. So now they do it again. Saying. So it's like you were saying a couple weeks ago, well, a week ago.
They're putting you in the 80s.
They taking it back to the 80s and the 90s. So they're doing stuff over. They just repeating history all over again.
They're trying to time travel on these people.
Yeah.
It really, to me, it really started when they killed Joe, when they sacrificed Jordan's father, and then blamed it on them two boys, and then forced him to come in. So then he said, "I'm gonna play baseball," and then it became almost like a joke, and then almost became like a joke. And that's what they do. You always get to a point where you're the greatest as a black man, and then it's like all of a sudden you gotta turn into like a clown, like with Wayne or like with Andre was going through all that. Yeah,
Michael Vick.
Yeah,
they really did him.
Yeah,
they really did him in, man.
Michael Jackson, R. Kelly, all of them.
Vick got
it. All of them.
But Vick got it worse though. They got him over dog murder charges.
Yeah.
Not Heru. It's a dog.
He still rolls at the end, but they still putting it on him. Chris Brown, look at him. This bitch got the nerve to make videos and records showing you how she was complicit in getting beat up and all that stuff. She made records about whips and chains and all of that. And they still trying to put it on this nigga like he was just...
Hello?
If that's the case, don't fit that description, the more power over the... Get out of this, become the archetype. Once you the